would like to call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock and declare that we do have a board quorum present. If you will please stand for our invocation, which will be led by Mr. Michael Spears, and our pledges of allegiance, which will be led by Roberts Elementary students, Mr. Mason Walls, Sierra Barber, Samantha Sheely, and Ezra Vallejo. Mr. Spears.
Father, we come to you today. We thank you for the opportunity to come here and do this school's business. We ask for wisdom in the sermon as we go through the agenda to just help enact your will here, just guide and direct these students to be just productive citizens. Father, we love you and thank you and pray all these things in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join us with pledges of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now join us for the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
I would like to ask our board to begin making its way to the front as we transition to our awards, achievements, and recognition time. I will now turn the presentation over to Ms. Carla Christman.
Good evening, Superintendent Massey, Board President Howard, board members, staff, and our guests. Tonight we have much to celebrate in our awards and achievements and recognitions, and much to be thankful for. Our first recognition this evening will be presented by Brittany Rosenbaum, our Executive Director of our BISD Education Foundation. Brittany.
Good evening, board members and guests. For decades, the Flash Walker L.T. Bryan Scholarship Fund has supported Brazosport and Brazoswood High School students in continuing their education by awarding tens of thousands of dollars in scholarship funds. A small group of former players of Coach Walker and Coach Bryan built this scholarship fund and impacted the lives of hundreds of students. These men now wish to see the legacies of these two great coaches continue by gifting the scholarship fund to the BISD Education Foundation. The foundation will continue the scholarship program for a minimum of 10 years and will utilize a majority of the funding to impact the foundation's Grants for Great Ideas program. Both the Scholarship Fund Board and the Education Foundation Board feel that these great coaches would be proud to see the impact they have made on students through scholarships and now through grants to teachers for innovative and creative educational opportunities for BISD students. The children of Coach Bryan are here tonight to present a donation check to the foundation for $160,000. Yes. But first, I would like to invite Mr. Mike Tracy forward to say a few words on behalf of the Scholarship Fund.
I would just like to tell you briefly how this all came about. But who started all this was a guy named Ray Langston, which most of you probably know from the years past. He wanted to have a fund, scholarship fund, in the name of L.Z. Bryan and Flash Walker, who's 107 years old today, if he was still alive. That's not too bad. Today's his birthday. But to have a scholarship fund, we round up money with golf tournaments, issue it to the students every year, and let it perpetuate for as long as we can keep it going. So we did. We put together a team of, the guy who started it was Ray. He got LZ, he got Flash, he got myself, he got Jim Payne and Pinky Anders, and we did this. We did it for about 25 years ago we started. We stopped doing it about 10 years ago. And over that 15 years, we rounded up $160,000, which includes interest, by the way, but that's a lot of money. Well, all those guys are gone now, except myself. I'm getting close sometimes, I think, but we've got some more guys on the board now. Joe Reinhardt, Ron Peacelock, Johnny Gilbert, and we are deciding how to manage this money, and as you just heard, that money is going to go now to funds here at BISD, who could probably do a lot better job than we could at managing that money. So Ms. Rosenbaum has assured me that that money will be well managed, and I believe, so we've turned it all over to her. It will benefit not just athletes, but it will benefit all students at BISD, which I think is a better step than what we had limited ourselves to. So I'm proud to be a part of this. I'm proud that whoever brought this up to transfer this money, which might have been you, Joe, I applaud that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tracy, I would like to invite forward Mrs. Barbara Anders, daughter of Coach Bryan. Nancy Gilbert, daughter of Coach Bryan. And Mr. Larry Bryan, son of Coach Bryan. I would also ask Mr. Tracy please come forward and ask that Mayor Joe Reinhardt, who is a foundation board member and a scholarship board member, and help facilitate this, to please come forward. Please come forward, son-in-law.
It's almost good. You're gonna match it, right? Shit.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You know you gotta check out that fit.
They don't really work. They don't gotta get down.
You don't make money, we won't send it.
Yeah.
She right by Joe, okay? Because we can see you.
Thank you very much.
I've been working on it.
For our next awards, we have Chris Hutchison, our coordinator of extracurricular programs. Mr. Hutchison.
Brazosport Independent School District is very proud of its art programs. The work produced by our students represents both excellence and hard work by both student and teacher. Tonight, we would like to honor a few of the many middle school and intermediate students who daily work for a better understanding of art and the world around them. The following students are winners from the Missouri County Fair Art Contest. Under the direction of Catherine Baldwin, we have Abigail Rios. Under the direction of Michelle Stollard, we have Natalie Walsh.
Here you go, ladies. Let's go ahead and get a picture right here. Here we go.
Good job.
For our next recognition, we'll have Mr. Jay Whitehead, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Good evening. As we all know, the most impactful person in a child's education is his or her classroom teacher. With that being said, the importance of staff attendance is critical. BISD continues to emphasize, reward, and recognize staff attendance. Tonight we recognize the campuses with the best staff attendance for the first 9 weeks. Elementary campus, represented by Assistant Principal Jeannie Harding. Did she make it back in? She was on her way back. Stephen F. Austin Elementary with 97.9%. Intermediate campus, under Principal Bridget Perkle, Lanier Middle School with 96.9%.
Thank you. Thank you.
And our final campus, our high school campus, under Principal Rita Pintavalli, Brazos Wood High School, a 96.2%.
We lifted them in shape there. Good job, good job. Thank you, good job.
Our next three presentations will be done by Ms. Tracy Phillips, our Executive Director of Administrative Services.
It is my pleasure to be here this evening to recognize our first student attendance winners of this new school year. Congratulations to Brannon Elementary for winning at the elementary level with an attendance rate of 97.5%. Rasco Middle School can boast about a 97% rate, making them the winner at the middle and intermediate level. And with a 95.2% attendance rate for the first 9 weeks, Brazos Wood High School wins at the high school level. Congratulations.
Cindy Yoza, but tomorrow.
I'd like to ask Ms. Darla Fagan to come up to the front, please. It is my pleasure to present this next certificate of recognition. Brazos High School dual credit counselor Darla Fagan has been selected to receive a 2017 Texas Counseling Association Distinguished Service Award. She will be recognized and presented the award on November the 16th during the Texas Counseling Association's award ceremony during the 61st TCA Professional Growth Conference in Galveston, Texas. Ms. Fagan was chosen to receive this award after completing a full term, which is 3 years, as the Brazoria County Chapter Senator for the Texas Counseling Association. At the ceremony, TCA's past president will formally present Ms. Fagan with the award and will invite her to the stage to be recognized. We are very proud of Ms. Fagan for being selected to receive this prestigious award, and we appreciate your dedication to not only your profession, but more importantly, to the students of BISD.
Thank you. Thanks for your hard work.
Dip it short again. Always for a minute.
As we began this new school year, back in August, there were many new and exciting changes for the Freeport feeder pattern. And as you can imagine, as with any change, there are always those last-minute details that need to be ironed out. One of those details involved transportation. For many Freeport students, walking to school was common. However, with the closing of Jane Long, we recognized that walking would not be an option for these students. As such, BISD Transportation did a great job of securing a pickup drop-off point at Arrington Park. When I observed the location, there was plenty of room and easy access for the buses, but there was no covered area large enough to hold all of the students in the case of extreme heat or bad weather. I reached out to Freeport Mayor Troy Brimage and asked if the city of Freeport could do anything to help out the kiddos. Without hesitation, Mr. Brimage said he would get right on it, and what a great job they did. Within a few days, a slab was poured, and within a few weeks, it was completely finished. even with Hurricane Harvey happening. Additionally, many concerns were raised regarding the poor conditions of the access road behind Brazosport High School, otherwise known as Exporter Drive. Once again, without hesitation, Mr. Brimage took this project on, and the road was soon repaired. Thank you, Mr. Brimage and the City of Freeport, for going above and beyond to ensure that our students have a safe, comfortable place to wait for the bus every morning, and our roads are safe for traveling. You have truly shown that you care deeply about the citizens of Freeport, all the way down to its youngest. We appreciate you, and I appreciate you, and you know why, and value our partnership with the City of Freeport. Please come.
Could have done it when you're on the school board. Come on,
Thanks.
So when I became mayor, we found out that my wife, Brenda Arrington Brimage, her cousin was mayor of Freeport in the 1950s, which we didn't know that. And Arrington Park was named after Mayor Arrington. So when I had the opportunity, she told me, if you don't do anything else in your 2-year term, you're going to do something with Arrington Park. So really, she's well excited.
And now at this time, we are fortunate to have a Rasco art student joining us. Kendra Contreras, would you please join Mr. Massey and the board? She had quite an accomplishment at the Brazoria County Art Show and just joined us.
Thank you for being here. We'll take a picture.
And now for our next recognition, Brian Cole, our Executive Director of Secondary Academics.
At this time, I would like to ask Carson Barker to please come forward. Carson is a Brazoswood junior who recently received the National Academy of Future Scientists and Technologists Award of Excellence for his outstanding performance, leadership potential, and dedication to serving humanity through science, technology, engineering, and math after attending the Congress of Future Science and Technology Leaders this summer. Carson represented Brazosport ISD in the state of Texas at the Congress held in Boston, Massachusetts. This honors-only program is dedicated to inspiring and motivating top high school students who aspire to careers in medicine, including medical research. The program continues to provide a path, plan, and resources to help students in reaching their goal. Speakers for the event included Nobel Prize winners, technology innovators, and physics scholars, as well as young geniuses who inspire through their inventions and innovations in talent search competitions. Congratulations, Carson. We're proud of you.
Kelly, our Chief Financial and Governmental Affairs Officer, will present our next recognition.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to introduce Kelly Lackey, our new Director of Business Services. Kelly has over 8 years of relatable experience from serving as the Director of Finance for the Angleton Danbury Medical Center. She has worked with 32 different doctors, department chairs, and other hospital administrators to develop an $80 million budget. Kelly spent the last 5 years managing the accounting and financial end of her husband's business, Lackey Refrigeration. She has extensive knowledge in business processes, an obvious passion for budgeting, and is committed to BISD taxpayers to use funds in a manner that gives them the maximum value for each dollar spent. I am confident that under Ms. Lackey's leadership that the business services team will continue to exercise fiscal responsibility to ensure financial strength, and she will continue to ensure that quality support is provided to our campuses and our departments. I am thankful she has chosen Brazosport ISD. She has started on October 30th, and tonight I ask you to officially join me in welcoming Kelly to BISD.
For our final recognition, Mary Lou Duchaney will present our heart work. Mary Lou is our Human Resource Coordinator.
Good evening. It's my honor to present to you the Heartworks Award winners for October. This month's winner is the Red Ribbon Parade cadre from TWI Elementary. Please come forward when I call your name. Selena Serrano, Carlos Eva, Karen Gresham, Christy Casper, Lauren Castater, and Nicole Banger. The Red Ribbon Parade is the culminating activity for a week that is filled with lessons to help students to learn how to make responsible decisions for the betterment of their health and their lives. Rain or shine, the TWI Elementary Annual Red Ribbon Parade is really something to see. For those of you who don't know, it rained really hard during the parade. The planning committee, PTO, and the counselor spend time decorating the school for the week, getting cars donated, and decorating the cars and floats that are driven in the parade. The committee also contacts community leaders, local businesses, BISD leaders, and student groups to participate. Community members and neighborhood friends line the streets to watch the floats and wave. It is a wonderful example of how the school can be the hub of a community and build pride in its citizens. Red Ribbon Parade cadre, please accept these certificates on behalf of Mr. Massey and the board for setting the standard by going above and beyond to serve the students, staff, and community of BISD.
Thank you very much.
Yes, this does conclude our awards and recognitions, but we're already looking forward to December when we have artwork, athletes, and other great examples of BISD setting the standard.
Yeah, you got At this time, in accordance with BED local, the board will provide an audience with individuals who have signed up prior to the meeting to address the board. Tonight, we do not have any requests to come to the board, so we'll move on to our next item on the agenda. That item is our consent agenda. I always thought I was loud enough. How about now? So the next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. Are there any items requested to be pulled from the consent agenda for tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to pull item F so we can vote an open for that.
All right, so we will pull item F. Any other items? Then do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda less item F?
So moved.
So moved. Excuse me. So moved. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by George. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. The next item that we have on the agenda are our action items. And action item A is our Lone Star Governance Tracker Calendar and Quarterly Report. The oh so talented Mr. Ron Ritton.
Thank you. Good evening. In alignment with Board Policy BAA Legal and with BISD Goal, Brazosport ISD will provide a rigorous and relevant learning experience to ensure that every student will be future ready. And in alignment with components in the Lone Star Governance Implementation Plan, I'm presenting for approval the Lone Star Governance Tracker, Calendar, and Quarterly Self-Evaluation Report. In December of 2016, BISD board members, superintendent, and selected district-level administrators attended a two-day Lone Star Governance training. The intention of Lone Star Governance is to provide a model for boards in collaboration with their superintendents to intensively focus on one primary objective, improving student outcomes. BISD and other districts were selected to participate in the initial Lone Star Governance training and are expected to accomplish components in the 5 Lone Star Governance areas. And those areas include vision, accountability, structure, advocacy, and unity. As components are completed, a district is rated as does not meet focus, begins focus, approaches focus, meets focus, or masters focus, depending on the number of the components completed. In July, the district began implementation of the LSG training in earnest with the creation of outcome goals, constraints for the superintendent, and constraints for the board. In August and again in October, the board approved revisions to AE Local and formalized the Big 5 outcomes, along with the superintendent and board constraints. A tracking document was developed to use in tracking our progress in accomplishing each component. The tracker is the tool we will use to monitor completion of the plan. With the actions the board is being asked to take tonight, the district will have officially completed 48.5% of the plan. With the accomplishment of additional components over the next 6 weeks, the percentage of completion will rise to 72%. Although an area has to be completed for credit to be given, we have worked since January on several components throughout the plan. There are 131 components in the LSG plan, and of those, the district has completed 107, or 82% of them. One of the most important roles the board plays in the Lone Star Governance model is to regularly monitor progress on student outcomes and superintendent constraints. Administration created a monitoring calendar that guarantees each outcome is monitored at least 4 times annually, and that each constraint is measured at least once annually. The calendar I'm presenting tonight provides for 4 or more reports on each outcome and 1 or more report on each constraint through next October, with the calendar repeated for the next year. Reports are scheduled around natural reporting periods to ensure that the board receives timely performance reports. The calendar is subject to final approval by Deputy Commissioner Crable, so similar to the revision process we followed with AE Local, it is possible we will be asked to tweak the calendar and bring it back to you for approval sometime in the future. Each quarter, I will provide you with an update on our progress in implementing the Lone Star Governance Plan using the quarterly self-evaluation document you see in this slide, along with the current progress document you saw earlier. The tool will provide you with information regarding our progress and our target percentage of completion for the next quarter. At the conclusion of each quarterly report, you will be asked to vote to approve or not approve the report and to sign the self-evaluation tool. Our vision of Brazosport ISD setting the standard for educational excellence is truly evident in the implementation of the Lone Star Governance model. We've been open and transparent in our progress reporting and sharing with the Deputy Commissioner. As a result, he has touted our work with other districts throughout the state. Additionally, our work has been recognized by Region 4, and Mr. Massey is being consulted by the Educational Support Center staff as they support other districts. In the words of one of the LSG trainers, BISD is light years ahead of other districts around the state in our work on Lone Star governance. One LSG trainer asked permission to share a tracking document with the districts with which she is working. Our most recent contribution is the calendar you're reviewing for approval tonight, with the emphasis placed on timely reporting of progress on outcome goals to the board. It is the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the Lone Star Governance Implementation Tracking Document, the Lone Star Governance Self-Evaluation Report, and the Lone Star Governance Student Outcome Report Calendar as presented. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any clarifying questions you may have.
Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the Lone Star Governance Tracker Calendar and Quarterly Report?
Move for approval.
Move for approval by Mr. Schwartner. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Spears. All those in favor signify.
I have a question. Concerning that.
Okay.
Concerning the motion, does that include the self-evaluation report?
Yes, the self-evaluation document that has our scores on it, yes, to date.
Okay.
That answer your question?
Yes, unfortunately it did.
Okay. It has been moved by Mr. Schwartner and seconded by Mr. Spears. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay.
I'd like to abstain from voting due to the fact that I still have some questions that concerning some of the input that it's probably too extensive to go into at this point. So I'd like to hold my approval until I get my questions answered. So I'm not against it. I just abstain.
So you're abstaining on the vote?
Yes.
So the motion carries with one absent and one abstention. All right. Next item on the action item is our new courses, science, math, career, technical education, and other electives. And before you get started, I just want to comment that the Lone Star Governance training was just exciting. I just want y'all to know that.
I told Dan we should have made Troy stay there.
That's an inside joke, but thank you, Ron, and for all those who do all the work that presented to us to make sense of it all and to keep us in compliance. I really appreciate it. And if you were at the training, you understand that too.
Absolutely.
I understand. I appreciate it. Just call.
And it's actually a little bit more than that. I mean, this Lone Star Governance, because of the new commissioner, is the magnifying glass that is being held on school districts. So the fact that we've got our collective stuff together is important and significant. So thank you to you and your staff and to the administration and everybody who's supporting all the stuff behind it. It is significant.
Thank you, sir. Y'all made us look good.
Good evening. In accordance with EH Local and BISD Goal 1, Brazos Fort ISD will provide a rigorous and relevant learning experience to ensure that every student will be future ready. I am pleased to present the new course requests. These courses have been reviewed by campuses, the Educational Planning Guide Committee, and the DEIC Committee. There are 9 new courses being proposed for our high schools. 2 of the courses are Project Lead the Way courses. Project Lead the Way courses are nationally recognized. The curriculum is developed by a talented team of professionals with extensive education and experience in the classroom and industry. It provides a cohesive instructional path for students that is informed by their personal classroom experiences, educators, current research, and ongoing collaboration with experts in academia and industry. This powerful combination provides a comprehensive learning experience unlike any other that provides students with leading-edge knowledge and expertise, as well as transportable skills they can apply no matter how the career landscape evolves. These 2 courses provide the foundation of 2 Project Lead the Way pathways in engineering and computer science. Each pathway consists of a total of 4 courses. The computer science pathway starts with Computer Science Essentials. The engineering pathway starts with Introduction to Engineering Design. The third course, Advanced Animal Science, is a CTE course that supports students in pursuing a veterinary assistant certification recognized by TEA as an industry-based certification for accountability. Print and Imaging Technology and Commercial Photography are both CTE courses which will replace Yearbook 1 and Photojournalism respectively, providing CTE weighting for these classes. Statistics provides students with an additional option for an upper-level math class. There will be a more relevant choice for other courses for some students post-secondary education. Outdoor Adventure Education serves as an additional option for physical education for our high school students. Peer Assistance for students with disabilities. Peer Assistance assists the teacher in general education classroom and special education setting by modeling appropriate learning behaviors, assisting with hands-on learning activities, and developing activities to facilitate inclusion in the classroom. The goal is to create a relationship among age-appropriate peers of differing abilities, both socially and academically. And finally, College Readiness focuses on preparing students for college. Students will participate in preparation for college entrance exams like the ACT and SAT. They will review the college applications and admissions process and also learn how to apply for scholarships and write application essays. Looking at cost and staffing considerations, Project Lead the Way courses would cost an estimated $25,000 each for training, supplies, and curriculum. Our CTE director, Mrs. Jessie Jennings, has applied for the Perkins Reserve Grant, which is a competitive grant, which, if awarded, will cover $40,000 of the $50,000 total. Advanced Animal Science, we anticipate $2,000 for supplies. If demand is high enough for the course, there could be a need for an additional teaching unit, which would be the $60,000. No additional expenses are anticipated for Printing and Imaging Technology 1, as this is simply replacing Yearbook 1. Commercial Photography would be $2,000 for an additional equipment and supplies due to the additional requirements of the course. It would be replacing Photojournalism. Statistics would have an anticipated cost of $20,000 for textbooks. Adventure and Outdoor Education would cost approximately $2,000 for supplies and equipment. Brazos Wood has already received a grant to support this class. No additional expenses are anticipated for peer assistance. College Readiness would have an anticipated cost of $140,000, which would provide a teacher for each campus along with supplies and materials. The administration recommends that the board approve the new course request as presented. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Atkins?
On this Lead the Way, two proposed classes, the training would be before the classes started, obviously.
Yes, generally speaking, the training does happen over the summer. Project Lead the Way does have an option. If for whatever reason training can't happen over the summer, which we plan to, it has a pathway for that to occur just in time during the school year.
And do we, so this replaces the computer science, is that?
So the two Project Lead the Way classes, the engineering, Introduction to Engineering Design would replace Principles of Applied Engineering. The Computer Science Essentials would replace Computer Science 1.
So essentially, probably the teachers that are teaching it now will go
Correct.
through this Project Lead the Way and be certified and be able to do that, okay.
Yes, sir.
Advanced Animal Science, we're talking, you said potentially needing one teacher. Do we have somebody who would be qualified to teach that now? Is that what
Yes, we do have teachers that are qualified to teach that now. We have that assumption because if the demand is high enough, we anticipate that there could be the need for additional personnel. However, we're optimistic that we will not necessarily need that. However, we want to be accurate with our staffing projections.
And this would be at both high schools?
Yes, all these courses will be offered at both high schools.
The last question I have was college fairs. Okay. I'm good, thanks.
Question, Mason?
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to remember the exact scenario, but the foreign language issue we had at Brazosport about offering a secondary foreign language, and didn't we have computer science via
Yes.
like web-based?
So computer science would still be available via Edgenuity for students that are wanting to pursue that avenue as a foreign language. Computer Science 1 and 2 are the only classes that are computer science classes that the state allows to count for foreign language. So unfortunately, they would not allow Computer Science Essentials to count as a foreign language credit, but Computer Science 1 and 2 we would still continue to be able to offer through Edgenuity as a foreign language.
So they still have the option of a different language besides Spanish, but it wouldn't necessarily be computer science essentials.
Wouldn't be computer science essentials, it would be computer science 1, which is on an online Edgenuity, which is what the students at Brazos-Port are taking now.
So then, who would be teaching the computer science essentials? It's not the same person monitoring the computer science 1, because they
No.
will be monitoring.
It would be a different person teaching the computer science principles.
So that's not is that an ad head count? Or?
We don't anticipate that would be an ad head count in this case.
And then for the college readiness class, how is that different than the SAT prep class that they would offer in the morning?
So the SAT prep class currently is an online class. This would be an Edgenuity class. There's also a dual credit class that's learning frameworks. This is intentionally designed to help kids get ready for the SAT, PSAT, the ACT, along with guiding students through the application process, the essay process. So it's intended to be really focused in on that. The idea is, regardless of whether you come from a background of poverty or you have parents that have gone to college, that we're providing an avenue and a means to help students know what they need to do to get there.
And so I'm assuming that's a semester?
In working with both high school campuses, I believe this year we do want to try for a full year course, or this coming year a full year course, focusing probably one semester on the SAT, PSAT, ACT prep, and a second semester on the college application process, the essay process, is the idea right now.
So then are you splitting it as a spring, fall? Because, I mean, you're going to need the SAT prior to applying, so you typically would need your SAT in what, your junior spring?
Right. We would likely split it semester.
So
But it would still be you could have a full year long.
It'd be 2 semesters, but not necessarily in the same grade year. Because you'd have to be like spring of junior, fall of senior.
Right. So we're offering. It'll be available to students in grades 10 through 12 as of right now, so that students could choose to take this at either point in time. Speaking with the principals, I think we see value in it for both sophomores and juniors. Senior years are kind of a little bit late. We want to get them going earlier rather than later. And some of the college applications are due in the summer, like prior to their senior year, so the summer of their junior year.
August 15th for university.
That's just what I was trying to figure out the time.
So who has been doing this? Was that the counselors who have been working with students as far as helping them with, not so much the SATs, but the applications and the essays?
Yes, we've had workshop nights that have not been well attended. So we're really not, despite advertising and getting it out there, we haven't seen the turnout that we would like to be able to say that we know for sure our kids are ready and their kids are going where they need to. Students often in their English classes too, they work through essay writing. However, we want to be sure that we're being very targeted in this so that we can equip students, and it's very clear. If you're taking this course, we're getting you ready to get into college. And that's what we really want for our kids, is to be able to, no matter what your background is, to be able to take this course and be able to complete the college application process, know what the steps are along the way.
Is this an elective credit?
This would be for a local credit, for which I believe we would have GPA exempt, so that it wouldn't hurt those students that are pursuing the extra GPA points.
How are we going to funnel them in there?
We are going to advertise the course like crazy.
Is there any prereqs for it? Like, I mean, because you wouldn't want to take away, like, I mean, or would you be concerned if it took away a core block spot to take a college prep if they don't even know if they're going to be able to get into college at that point?
So the prerequisite would be grades 10 through 12. Of course, the counselors work with students to ensure that they would be meeting graduation requirements as a priority prior to signing up for a course like this that would not necessarily count for their graduation credit.
I guess college readiness may not be the right connotation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds like it's really more of a college admissions preparatory course instead of a college readiness course. So I don't know what that we're.
We can work on the title.
Yeah, because I mean that's what I'm hearing two different things. The other one, going back to the adventure and outdoor education, I mean, because that's something new, I don't know if we would see a high interest in it. So I don't know what the plan as far as, that number of kids we're thinking will sign up for it, or, I don't want, I'd hate for the kids to, there be a rush on it, and we're not necessarily, we underestimated how many kids might be interested in that class, and how quickly we could readjust to be able to meet that need, because nothing would kill a class faster, if you're anticipating, 60 and you have 180 sign up for it.
You're right. We have to discuss this with the high school principals, and we have a plan. We'll be using existing staff to teach the course. If there is a high demand, we'll reevaluate that, but we don't anticipate that at this point in time.
Okay. And then y'all might have to come back for additional supplies if it does become highly sought.
Yes, sir.
Which of these would provide certifications versus credit?
Certifications as far as industry-based certifications. So the advanced animal science would help our students in obtaining their veterinary medicine assistant certification. And then down the road with Project Lead the Way, there are certifications involved in those courses. These first two classes do not have certifications associated with them, but if pending approval and then the additional courses, there are certifications that can be obtained in those pathways.
Okay.
Any other questions?
How many, just a general question, how many courses get thrown on the wall before we get down to this list?
Oh, that's a great question. I would probably say this year we had twice as many courses initially.
Just a general question.
All right. We have a recommendation from the administration to approve the new courses, science, math, technical education, and other electives. We have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. By Mr. Schwartner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. Carries unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item on our list is the action item that was pulled, the consent agenda item that was pulled, item number F.
Yeah, I just thought it would be a good idea to have this in an open session that we cast, 887 votes for Gail Robinson. Put that out in the open.
The Astoria County Appraisal District Board of Directors election.
So I would make a motion that we approve the voting of 887 votes for Gail Robinson for the Astoria County Appraisal District Board of Directors.
It has been moved by Mr. Atkinson. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Schwartner. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by nay. Carries. Passes. Thank you, sir. The next item on our agenda are our reports. Item A is the 2012-14 bond project update presented by Mr. Octoray. Looking good.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy CV Local, it is my pleasure to present the 2012 and 2014 bond update. For 2012, as of November 13th, total POs issued of $33,722,578, or approximately 83.68% completed or in progress. For the 2014 bond, as of November 13th, total POs issued of $71,311,464, or approximately 40.75% completed or in progress. Completed projects for 2014 bond are the new Lanier Gymnasium, Fulton Griffith Classroom Additions and Gymnasiums, Package A Summer Projects, and the new Boydell Elementary. Current projects for the 2014 bond are the Freeport Elementary, which is currently under construction, Package B and CTE projects, which are, for all intents and purposes, completed, but they're working on a few punch list items and tying up a few loose ends, and the Ogg Elementary replacement, which is in design development. Freeport Elementary School is moving along very well and on schedule for a end of May completion. This photograph is the architect's rendering, and I'm happy to show you this photograph that was taken by J.D. Armstrong with his drone from our technology department. And we went out there last Thursday. It was a cloudy day, but I think the pictures came out very well. As you can see, towards the left-hand side of the photograph, that's the bus loop and also the pickup and drop-off lane. The square area is where the buses will turn around, but also it is a hard surface play area for the students.
Don't overlook the detention ponds. Sir? Don't overlook my favorite detention ponds.
Oh, we have them.
Yes,
I can guarantee you. I think there's 3 of them on the site, actually. The one on the upper.
Whichever time it is.
Yeah.
I've heard of both.
The one on the upper right-hand corner has been in place for quite some time now, and it has worked very, very well. It's the other ones aren't in place yet, but it's doing its job. This photograph, also taken by the drone, is just obviously a little bit closer down, showing the activity that's going on the roof, as well on the ground. There's not a trade out there that's not doing something. They're all on top of each other, which is good. This is just one of the shots from the end of one of the classroom wings off of 11th Street. And this photograph is inside one of the classroom wings, just looking out where you can see the windows are framed up. This list, you've seen this several times. It's the Package B CTE improvements for this past summer that have been taking place. And this photograph shows, that was also taken by the drone, the Clute Intermediate Tennis Courts. I did not have a chance to make it by there today. I meant to, actually. The only thing they have left to do is put up the wind netting, and then they'll be done. They're ready for use. As you know, the Brazos Wood High School CTE Center, with great help from Freeport LNG, we have the ribbon cutting, and these are photographs from that event. And the photograph on the left is the Ag Shop Welding Lab. Photograph on the right is the wood shop. And on the left, these 2 photographs are from the rocketry science room. And I personally have heard nothing but praises for this.
That's good.
For the things that we've done with this building. It's very
Culinary
good.
students did good too.
This time, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, Mr. Timetable on the 2012 bond, finishing up that last 15%?
We went through an exercise a little while back to, I guess, kind of help me out, Rebecca, to pull together all the monies that were left over from projects that were finished up, and got permission from CBOT basically to extend the life of the original intent. In other words, if we had security fencing at 10 sites and we've completed that, but maybe we've got some security fencing needs in other areas that weren't originally identified, we've got the authority to use dollars like that. We've got probably 3 or 4 years of technology obsolescence money left in there. We've got some maintenance obsolescence, some paint rehabilitation, carpet rehabilitation, things like that.
That sums it up.
Better maintain the categories.
So some of it is still remaining for the refresh cycle. So, the computers we purchased 4 or 5 years ago, those are about at their end of their useful life, and so we're actually working to purchase, the next phase of those. So a lot of that money that's left is still just for the refresh cycle.
Okay. Do we have a breakdown somewhere that kind of shows how we've allocated?
Yes.
I can share that with you.
Okay, and maybe in future board updates, just kind of include that, and if there's any kind of timetable of when we think some of those.
So what we might do, if you don't mind, Mr. Massey, is I'll I'll present the 2012 bond update at our next meeting, because Alex isn't as familiar with, those weren't really construction projects, a lot of line items. If y'all like that.
Just to kind of, for us to see and for others to see that we do have a closure plan in mind for the rest of those funds and to wrap that up. Because, I mean, that's going to be 6 years old here in about, a month or so.
We too would like to get it closed.
Is Boyle 100%?
Yes, sir.
Is Freeport on schedule?
Yes, sir.
Good. How early do you think they'll be finished?
How early?
They'll be on schedule. What is scheduled? 2 weeks before?
End of May.
Oh, okay, all right. So we'll have the summer for the teachers.
Yes, sir.
We start on the 17th, we'll be done by the 16th for sure.
And like with Boyle, I don't know if there's an opportunity in the near future, or maybe it's even after the holidays, to do one of those Saturday tours or something like that of the new Freeport Elementary.
Absolutely.
That would be very interesting.
If we could get the site a little bit further along, because it's so muddy out there all the time. But now that driveway is going in the back, that's going to be a huge help.
Yeah, like I said, after the first of the year, and then, because it's going to be crazy for the next several weeks. So, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Looks good.
Thanks, sir. Our next report is report number B, student and staff attendance, presented by Mr. Whitehead and Ms. Phillips.
Thank you. In accordance with Board Policy DEC Local and FEA Local, and in alignment with the district goal, BISD will promote, communicate, and market the accomplishments, achievements, and success of students and staff, and in alignment with Lone Star Government's Superintendent Constraint 2 Progress Measure. It is my pleasure to present, along with Executive Director of Administrative Services, Ms. Tracy Phillips, the student and staff attendance report. We know that positive student outcomes are the result of quality classroom instruction. Teachers being present in the classroom is the best way to ensure our students are receiving consistent, quality instruction and support. Earlier this evening, we recognized the top 3 campuses with outstanding staff attendance for the first 9 weeks. And given the impact by Hurricane Harvey, we might have expected low staff attendance. However, that was not the case. We had a favorable 95.4% staff attendance for the first 9 weeks. I do want to acknowledge and extend the appreciation of our staff to our Board of Trustees for the generosity of allowing 6 days of disaster leave for staff impacted by Hurricane Harvey. Thank you again, President Howard and Board of Trustees. Beyond the outstanding first 9 weeks, we also have seen an overall increase in staff attendance since implementing the incentive pay for being present. Notice in the 4th column, staff attendance increased at almost every campus from 2015-16 to 16-17. Clute Intermediate and Lanier Middle School had over a 2% increase in staff attendance. And as a district of just over 1,400 campus employees, we had a 0.84% increase in campus staff attendance from 15-16 to 16-17. To better understand the impact, considering that campus staff work 187 days, this 0.84% would represent 1,873 days. If we applied the cost of $75 for the substitutes, we saved around $140,000. Overall, staff being there for students is on the rise in BISD. Now Ms. Phillips will report on student attendance.
We all recognize that we must have our students in school in order for them to learn. Many efforts are targeted at improving student attendance, such as weekly monitoring, awards and recognitions both at the campus and district level, and interventions that range from parent and student conferences to court filings. When we compare the 2016-17 student attendance data for the first 9 weeks to to the current year's first 9 weeks, we see increases at 5 campuses, excluding JJAEP. Brannon, Griffith, Roberts, Ogg, and Brazos Wood High School have all increased. However, all of our other campuses are down slightly. We attribute some of this decline to the after effects of Hurricane Harvey, although it is hard to know exactly how much. But we certainly believe that the decline at Polk and SFA can be attributed to Harvey. We continuously look for ways to get kids to school and keep them there. It's an ongoing struggle, but I commend the campuses and the truancy officers for doing an excellent job of recognizing how important attendance is and working to find solutions to the many reasons why some students don't attend school regularly.
This concludes our staff and student attendance report for the first 9 weeks. This is for report only, and we'd be happy to answer any clarifying questions at this time.
Thank you. Next item on our report is report item C, beginning of year parent survey by Mr. Massey.
Thank you. In accordance with district goal, BISD will provide a rigorous and relevant learning experience to ensure every student will be future ready. It is my pleasure to present the results of the beginning of the year parent survey. The district values feedback and input from parents we serve. The district conducted an electronic survey during the month of October. We had over 1,100 parents participate to rate extremely satisfied, satisfied, dissatisfied, or extremely dissatisfied in the following areas: overall school experience, quality of teaching, experience registering or enrolling, meet the teacher or schedule pickup, communications by teachers and campuses. On question 1, 95% of the survey participants rated their child's overall school experience so far this year as extremely satisfied or satisfied. On question 2, 94.8% of the survey participants rated the quality of teaching their child is receiving as extremely satisfied or satisfied. Again, an extremely high percentage. On question 3, 93.5% of the survey participants rated their overall experience enrolling, registering, extremely satisfied or satisfied. As you can see, extremely satisfied received the highest rating of the responses. On question 4, 89.1% of the survey participants rated information and customer service provided at Meet the Teacher or schedule distribution as extremely satisfied or satisfied. The last survey question, number 5, 92.4% of the parents completing the survey rated overall communication provided by the campus or teachers as extremely satisfied or satisfied. This is another area that extremely satisfied choice had the highest rating of the choices. We believe strongly in the continuous improvement process and will always work to get better. However, we were extremely pleased with the high ratings of the beginning of the year parent survey. Our district and campuses have worked very hard to ensure we are providing a high quality of teaching and overall school experiences, excellent customer service, and effective two-way parent communication. This is a report only and no action is required, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time. Did we follow up with the extremely dissatisfied just to see if there was validity to what happened or if it was just extenuating circumstances?
No, we didn't follow up because they weren't identified in the survey. Now, we did receive some comments, and we know the areas that we review with our campuses in August after Meet the Teacher and schedule distribution. So we had already identified some areas, and some of the comments and concerns were confirmed in there. Yeah. Were they similar situations across the board, or was it one or two campuses? It was more than one or two campuses. Yeah. But again, I think the overall rating was. It's unusual to see ratings that high. I think, especially when you look at the numbers. I mean, 95% of 1,100 students, it's, you know, that's 7 of the 1,100 extremely dissatisfied possibly, you know, so, very high.
Between multiple surveys, do we have similar questions such that we could possibly do a trend or start collecting data to do a trend?
We do, yeah. We have an end-of-year survey too, and we have last year's end-of-year survey, and we'll do another one this year. It has a few more questions in it. This was, we branded our 60-second survey to get feedback on the start of school. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Massey.
The next item on our report is Report B, the Student Performance on Curriculum-Based Assessments, known as CBAs, presented by Ms. Claire Davis.
All right. In alignment with Board Policy EH Local and the Lone Star Governance Student Outcome Goals 2 and 3 progress measures and our district goals, BISD will provide a rigorous and relevant learning experience to ensure that every student will be future ready. I will present the results of the first round of our curriculum-based assessments. During our last workshop, we presented data dashboards that still hold important information in regards to student outcomes. Tonight, you will see results that will give us the lights of all engines are ready to go, and at some parts of the presentation, the engine warning lights will be flashing. This is absolutely part of the process to ensure that we are learning at high levels and we are effectively monitoring to identify gaps in student learning. Note, adjustments to the scope and sequence were made in order to accommodate the 11 instructional days on Hurricane Harvey. As you know, CBA stands for Curriculum-Based Assessment, and the process for building and creating CBAs begins each spring with the creation of district assessment calendars. CBAs are built from 3 test banks of questions, and these test banks have thousands of items per content area that are aligned to our state standards. Test questions are selected in alignment with our district curriculum calendars. The standards covered on CBAs will come only from the units of study prior to the testing window. Before district assessments can be published, teachers are provided opportunities to vet the assessment. The vetting process includes reviewing assessments for alignment to state standards, alignment to curriculum calendar, and any errors or formatting concerns in the draft copy. Once assessments are ready to be published, content coordinators share guidelines and expectations for administering the CBAs. Blueprints are also provided to teachers to help guide the classroom instruction, and also to inform teachers of the number of questions that will be seen on the CBAs and in which standards will be assessed. So let's first take a look at our 3rd grade math on the screen. 3rd grade is the first year students experience high state standardized assessment. Our goal in K-12 is to ensure that our kids are successful problem solvers and use mathematics efficiently and effectively in daily lives. The primary focal areas in grade 3 are place value, operations of whole numbers, and understanding fractional units. And in grade 4, the primary focal areas are use of operations, fractions, and decimals. Grade 4 CBA primarily covered use of operations in whole numbers and decimals. The data you are seeing now with our 3rd and 4th grade math compares data with the grade level from 2016 to 2017. This data does not compare the same student groups across the grade levels, and it's really apples to oranges because they're different kids and there's sometimes different teachers. However, this data does provide a projection from the same time the previous year. As you can see, the 4th grade is seeing advances at each campus across the district. To see green all the way across shows we are trending in the right direction for 4th grade. Even with the lost instructional days, we're at a better place at this time of the year than we were this time last year. So let's look at our middle intermediate math. 5th through 8th. For 5th graders, this will be their first year to participate in the Texas Student Success Initiative. The Student Success Initiative applies to grades 5 and grade 8. And what this means is they have to pass the STAR test in both math and reading in order to advance to the next grade level. Stakes are very high for 5th and 8th grade students taking STAR. As compared to this time last year, we're pleased to say we're again trending in the right direction for both 5th and 6th grade math. Based on success of the ALEX programs in grades 7 and 8 last year, we expanded the program to include all students 5th through 8th grade. Through goal setting and accountability, students are addressing instructional gaps in their math knowledge, and teachers are able to build targeted lessons and support for specific standards in their instruction. Now for 7th and 8th grade results. With the same history we see in data for 4th grade math, it is positive news to see increases in 7th grade math. We still need to focus our results in 8th grade to determine the deficiencies as reflected in the 2017 data. But if you look at the cohort, for example, last year's 7th graders were at 39%. Now that same group of kids as 8th graders are at 65%, which is a 26% increase. This type of data analysis is now in progress, and this data also excludes the current 8th grade students who are taking the Algebra 1 for high school credit. So let's look at 8th grade and high school. Advanced math students can take Algebra 1 as early as 8th grade, earning one of their first high school credits. Algebra 1 is the first credit required before advancing to additional math courses and provides the strong math foundation needed throughout their high school. So here's some good news. We have increases as much as 10% in Algebra 1. Our 8th grade Algebra 1 students are indeed performing at high levels. Increases of 24 to 30% show that our high school Algebra 1 students are headed in the right direction. It's important to note that the high school scores seen here also reflect our students who will retake the Algebra 1 EOC in just a few short weeks. The high school Algebra 1 data is also reflective of the strong PLC teams who meet weekly to collaborate and share best practices. Additionally, our new Algebra 1 program, Agile Mind, which you approved for us last spring, has had a positive impact. So now we'll take a deep breath and we'll go to elementary reading. For reading and writing, the engine light is flashing, especially in the 4th grade. While our 3rd grade curriculum opens with a fiction unit to build on skills that were the focus of their primary education, our 4th grade students begin the year learning about poetry in the first grading period. The feedback received was that this genre for young readers was extremely difficult as it is so abstract. This type of data analysis is now in progress. As with the other comparisons, we're looking at 2 different student groups in each grade level. It does, however, give us a glimpse at our trajectory for the year when compared to where we were at this point in 2016. And now for our 4th grade writing, our data shows that we still have a lot of work to do. But we're confident in some new instructional practices that have been put in place. We've developed a revising and editing skills bank for teachers to use in addressing our essential outcomes. And teachers were introduced to the skills bank in recent PLCs, and we look forward to seeing the returns in our data. So here's the comparison slide, and as previously noted, we have lots of work to do. But one thing we have to remember is the writing blocks that we have scheduled in our master schedules have to be separate. And here's our 5th and 6th grade CBAs. This includes both reading and writing skills. Thus, these tests are labeled ELA for English Language Arts. The skill of research writing. historically has always been at the end of the year in the scope and sequence. However, this year, the sixth grade curriculum calendar was realigned to move expository reading and research writing to the first grade period. And we did this because we wanted to accommodate our sixth graders who were involved in the Space Station Experimentation Program. So they needed to have that writing, that research skill front-loaded, and we'd never done that before. So the sixth grade reading portion of the CBA included only expository passages, as no other genres had been introduced at this point in the year. Expository reading is our lowest tested genre and therefore is heavily represented in our essential outcomes. In other words, we teach expository reading and writing all year and do not typically include it on a CBA in the first semester. This year was an exception, and we knew it was very early to assess the expository test. But other formative assessments throughout the year will help us monitor the progress in this genre. So here's the comparison slide, and keep in mind that the scope and sequence was realigned, as previously mentioned, and tested one of our most challenging genres, expository reading and writing. And you can see the asterisks. In 2016, our scope and sequence covered fiction and poetry, and this year it was expository only. Our 7th and 8th grade English language arts. On this slide, you will notice separate reading and writing columns for 7th grade. In the past, our 7th grade CBA combined both reading and writing standards. This year, however, principals requested that the 7th grade CBA be split into separate reading and writing tests for enhanced data analysis. The 7th grade writing performance continues to be a concern. This will be an ongoing area of intense focus as we monitor the implementation of the newly developed BISD writing curriculum. The writing continuum takes our essential outcomes one step further and gives each grade level a specific skill or skills to make a focal point of instruction throughout the year. And here's the comparison slide. The newly divided 7th grade data is more useful in guiding instruction, but it makes the year-to-year comparison difficult. So here's our high school English 1 and English 2. The English 1 and 2 tests also encompass both reading and writing. Unlike 4th and 7th, however, the state tests the reading and writing standards in a combined test, so we do the same. And here's the comparison slide. And now let's go to science. So here are the science scores for 5th grade, 8th grade, and biology. And here's some good news. Science showed an increase district-wide and in all tested grade levels in the majority of campuses. Targeted instruction and a continued look at data will drive our next instructional moves in science. And now we move to social studies, and we've shown growth at both tested grade levels in U.S. history. And so here's our comparison slide, and mostly green, but a few. And so here's our next step. We will identify students and perhaps teachers who are in need of additional time and support. We'll identify effective teaching practices that yield high gains and results. We'll examine program concerns and make adjustments. We'll provide feedback to help students reflect on their progress toward mastery. And on November the 15th, the principal supervisors will meet individually and collectively with each principal so that we can look at their next steps as they continue to plan on their target areas. A hallmark of a professional learning community is looking at data and using it as a catalyst for improving student outcomes. As we utilize our dashboards to gauge our switches, we can use the CBA as a monitoring tool to grease the wheels for a smoother ride to success. This is a report only, and I will be happy to answer any clarifying questions.
Any questions? George? Going way back to the elementary math CBA, the difference between the third and the fourth grade, with third being relatively high, how much of that is the improvements that we've made in first grade and second grade feeding into the first exam of the third grade? Is any of that relevant, or does any of that come out in that data?
With our new standards, we have...
Stand up, come up here, please, stand up. Thank you.
I had all my
Yeah,
content
thank you,
coordinators
yeah.
come up with, they've been in relay training all
Yeah,
day, so
thank you.
I may have taken them out of their element here. Sandra, did you want to do it?
Yes, with our new standards, we have number census built in as a high priority in the K-2 grade levels. And so we're seeing some impact from the number sense and the students having stronger numeracy, but we have a really strong third grade team across the district.
Okay, so it's a combination.
And that GG keeps hopping around.
It is.
How much of the grades were impacted potentially by Harvey in the start-stop of classrooms?
You know, we all may have an opinion about that, but as your chief academic officer, I would say that we started right on target. We identified those essential outcomes, which, when I say essential outcomes, these are the objectives that they have to have that are just so important. And we focused on those, and then for enrichment, we included the nice to have. So I feel like with our identification that we used last year in identifying those essential outcomes, and we changed our first grade report card, to be standards-based, that, I don't feel that Harvey had any impact at all except for time. So we had to selectively prioritize what was essential, and we went with that. And that's what was tested, were the essentials. Now, another hallmark of a PLC school, and again, Tara Fulton has one of the most award-winning master schedules. In addition to time during the school day for your subject and content areas, you need to build in the extra time so that we can fill in the gaps for those who have deficiencies, and also provide extensions and enrichment for those that get it the first time.
Okay. And I know these are all formative assessments, but just from the summary of it, it looks good towards Index 2 and even with Index 3, based on how they're already showing the green, so that, the growth, and then closing the gaps. So I'm pleased. And it is formative, so I'm not hung up on the numbers per se. It's just, it does give an indication that we know where we need to work, and it gives an indication that we might be actually really surprised by the next year's test results of how much of an improvement we could potentially see. So I'm excited.
Well, the process is really about monitoring and knowing now what we need to work on and expand. So, again, it's not a gotcha system, but we're going to monitor closely system.
And I know we're going to have additional CBAs in the future. Is there a way to break out SPED and LEP? And then I know with the improvement required at BSA for some of those tested subjects, I don't know if we can break that out. I guess it's just they're rolled in with their home campus on some of those, like algebra and English, but it would be good to see them separately just because of the improvement required issue that we have to address with BSA.
And we have, on the campus dashboards, they have those separated too, but a lot are aggregated in here as well, so we did an all report.
Jerry?
Going to the next slide there. When we look at the third grade for 2016, which is now the fourth grade for 2017, even though we're showing increases from last year's fourth grade, but That's not a good comparison, but it is the same kids. Is that correct? I mean, the third grade for last year, for 2016.
Third grade are now the 2017 fourth grade.
Yeah. And so, if you look along there, we're kind of, a lot of them are pretty much the same percentage, but there are some drops. Is that looked at? I mean, as opposed to just the improved?
We are looking at cohort, I call it cohort data, last year's third grade being this fourth grade as well.
And that goes, I'm not picking on standard, but that goes for ELA and, all the
Right.
comparisons that you did, so.
And like I said, it's apples to oranges, so it is not a good comparison, but curriculum, where we are in the curriculum, it's really to monitor, you know.
Is it really apples to oranges? Because the kids who are obtaining the percentage of meeting the standard.
Well, when you compare third grade to fourth grade,
Different curriculum.
Different curriculum, but but that.
Additional
But you still get the same kid, and it's is this kid at 70% in third grade and 70% in fourth grade? Is that good or is that bad? Should they be at 70% in third grade and 75 in fourth grade?
I think on this particular CBA, and it's new, it depends on the grade level. Is it all new material and more advanced? I think if you maintain and exceed, that's good. It'd be better if we, we're higher, but you're also learning brand new content.
That should be 78% new content, right?
Claire, can I ask
But
a thing?
based on your learning in third grade, that makes the step up to the fourth grade somewhat easier. If you haven't learned in the third grade, then the fourth grade is going to be,
That's right.
yeah.
But if you're at 74 in third grade, then 74 in fourth grade, you still made a year's worth of progress.
That doesn't mean, right, that doesn't mean you didn't make any progress either.
Right. No, I agree.
That's why it's apples to
But
oranges.
well, I'm still not sure how bad it is. It's the same kid.
74% of the curriculum in fourth grade is brand new. It's not scaffolding from one year to the next. It's almost like starting completely over what they're doing in fourth grade. We see that again in sixth grade also, but the percentage passing rate is much lower because it's set in the 30s than it is for the other grade level.
So it's like third grade and below, like a foundational type part, and then fourth to sixth is like another step up of foundation.
K2 is foundational, and then you finish it off with third, and then you continue to build in fourth.
I don't like the reading.
We don't.
Because it trickles into everything, right?
How much of a factor was the fact that the CBA, at least for the lower grades, was held on Red Ribbon Week and the week of Halloween?
They had a 2-week window.
They did. They had a range of time of when they could take it. So, if you took it on the day of the parade, that would not have been a good instructional decision. But, they worked around that too. But, we have all kinds of things, but learning has to go on.
Right.
Learning never stops in BISD, except for a parade, different things. But, you really have to be cognizant of that as an instructional leader, that you're not going to give a major test on a parade day.
Yeah.
So,
Do they try to get together and break those up too? Math on certain days, English on certain days, just instead of having both on the same?
and it takes, a class period? Yeah, it's not like you shut down the whole school like you do for a mock, but you take the class period.
On your next step slides, next steps slide. In the slide for steps. Can you get just a little more detail for me? To identify the students who need additional time and support. So you identify them. Do you then take these teaching practices at the second one to pinpoint those, or what's the kind of details?
Take you through a process.
Okay.
So let's pretend that we are fourth grade teachers, and we have our data back. We have our CBA data back. So now, as a collective team, we sit down and we say, who are the kids that mastered it, knocked it out of the park, probably made 100 or just missed one. And then we take the other kids that are solid, but then you take another group that barely passed or barely failed, and then you take another group that are just unsuccessful. So then you look at that as a grade level, you look at those children and you make a list. You make a list. So then the question becomes, if we're looking at it as a grade level, now we're going to look at teacher percentages. Well, how did you do, Mr. Atkins? How did you do, Mr. Sullivan? And it might be that you did much better and you did significantly worse. So we would have the conversation about what are the best practices. What did you use to get that high of a mastery that yield such high results? And so then we begin to discuss those best practices, like doctors would sit around and talk about what treatments worked and what didn't. And at that point, now we have to make a decision. We know we're going to have to get additional time for kids. We can't just move on. We got to keep moving on in the curriculum, but we have to go back and fill in the gaps for these kids that either barely passed or were not successful at all. And so then the conversation becomes, well, when do we give this additional time? And let's say we have that time already carved out in most of our master schedules. But if you are the expert in that particular standard, then wouldn't it make sense for the expert to teach the children that have demonstrated the most efficiency? So now we're collectively team teaching. Or it might be that if we're using computer-assisted instruction to provide that, that could be someone else that just sits beside them and works through those additional problems or through that reading passage.
Would you take your experts to the ones that barely passed or barely failed because you probably have a higher yield than people that dramatically failed?
And
you don't want to negate the other end.
No, and you look at things like perhaps, I'm using you for an example, if you had the highest gains, then if you share the resources that you use, which you should have done to begin with before we ever planned a unit, but if you did something different, then you share, and it might be that we could all do what you did. But if you feel like, it might even be something as the motivation of the teacher. Maybe the kids need to hear it in a different voice. Because sometimes, if you have the same voice teaching the first time, you might need somebody different that second time. So those are the conversations that I call it the professional learning community sits down and decides. That's the process that we use. And then you reteach and then you reassess. And hopefully you're bringing these kids back into the fold. But all the time you keep going on with the curriculum, but as the year goes, you spiral that curriculum all throughout the year. For example, with expository reading and writing, you have to spiral that continuously because that's a higher order thinking skill that our kids struggle with. And like in 6th grade, I'm thrilled to death we did it first because now we shouldn't wait till later on in the year to do that. That should be the hardest skills should be taught throughout the whole year.
So we're going to move poetry to the back of the
For George, Mr. Sullivan, we're going to have poetry all throughout the year.
How is that focus pushed out to the schools? Is that through the principals? Is that through grade coordinators? Is that through
what I just described?
Yeah. I mean, how is that pushed out from to every campus to every teacher and finally down into the student?
Well,
I mean, is that you going out physically, or is that?
Well, every one of our principals, assistant principal, and teacher leads have been trained on the PLC process. Every one of us. We just, and campuses that have struggling teacher teams that don't embrace the process that I just described, I work with them as a coach personally because we know and we have yielded results. The stronger the professional learning community, the higher the grade.
Is that mostly led by our principals? Is that mostly led by our principals or content coordinators?
Our principals.
Okay.
Our content coordinators support. We're support and we provide resources in addition. Now
Are they in a lot of PLCs throughout the week or month or?
I would
Check-in
say
schools?
it just depends. Like, you saw some of the schools, like, you saw a school in social studies that we have a real targeted area. So that content coordinator, Ms. Angela McKay, probably lives at that school, and so she differentiates her time, but she's targeted there because that's where if she is the expert, then she's going to go where the most efficient is. Some of our coordinators are invited to come sit in on the PLC. Some just know that they need to be there, whether they're invited or not. But they really serve also, too, as teacher coaches. With our new teachers, and maybe I'm a teacher that taught kindergarten all my life, but now I'm in 4th grade. So, you know, you cannot depend solely upon the central office for support. That's why you have to build capacity on the side, led by our strong instructional leaders, which I'm very proud that we have.
Building a little bit what Michael was talking about, how much is the CBA data used to determine when kids go from one grade to the next, which teacher they might end up with based on strength of the teacher and the need of the student based on, is CBA data used for that type of stuff?
As a collective group, I think it's more than just test scores. I think you have to look at personality traits and how they match, and you know, I think that definitely is a variable as what we look at. But you know, we look at all kinds of variables, and that's a very ideal strategy to match a child's learning style paired with a teacher that really addresses that learning style.
Okay, so there's not a strong emphasis of that data or that variable. It's kind of
well, in elementary, we're heterogeneously grouped, which means there's no tracking. So I would say, you know, we get all students, and we teach all students. So we're not
Do we ever realign
favoring tracking.
No, you know, if it's formative, if the data can be used from one year to the next to kind of help close some of that formation, that's where I guess where I'm going with that.
Okay, so I would say that summative data is really used more for the placement into the next grade, because the formative, I think of it like this: formative is for learning. The summative is, it is what it is.
Okay, fair enough.
When's the next CBA?
This is our next CBA.
Montessori for test fifth grade, but first and second still have CBA.
When?
Is it
February? Be March, February, and March.
We have a calendar, and I don't know what it is. I believe it's February. And remember, our screeners are still going on, our middle of the year screeners for reading. And
So we probably have another one like this around March.
And our student outcome calendar you just approved.
Yep.
I remember reading it.
gotta read it. We'll give you an alert in our board update that you read.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we ever realize?
I voted on it.
Any other questions?
Like if you're having somebody really struggling, do you realign the, you know, like you said, the mastery groups and the barely passing, barely failing, and then the people that are really struggling with the content? Do we ever realign the classroom mid-year or so to then be able to focus even more, or do we keep them? I know there's value in
Here's another way to look at it. There's tiers. And our tier 1 is that guaranteed valuable curriculum that we all get, every child gets. And after we teach those essential outcomes, you know, you're always going to have some kids that don't get it. And so we basically address that. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't get the next skill the next time. So what I'm saying to you is, as a lawyer would say, it just depends. But you're going to have that tier 3 group, and many of these are struggling with 6 universal struggles, which might be they can't read, they have weak number sense, they have an attendance problem, they have a behavior problem, or they can't speak the English language. So those are your Tier 3 kids that are always going to need that additional time and support until they can overcome those hurdles, which they can. Oftentimes those are our special education children, our English language learners. And so once we fill in that gap, then you're looking at them going into the next tier, which would be Tier 2 and Tier 1. For example, this summer we had a power reading camp, and those were our Tier 3 kids. Those were the ones invited. With intense instructional focus, that staff was able to move them from Tier 3 to Tier 1 in about 3 weeks. Pretty powerful. So,
Let's move on.
let's move on.
Thank you.
All right.
The next item are board committee reports. Do we have any under our report section? Yes, sir, Mr. Atkins.
The CTE Advisory Committee met on 10/17, continuing effort to reshape and move that forward. Student Management Advisory, 10/19, working on EMIS data, et cetera, so got a good working through there. Was it PWI Red Ribbon Parade? Danny got stuck on the fire truck. Asked me if I wanted a fire truck. I said, not really, but they had a car already. So when it rained, I just rolled up the window. So
Thank you,
good.
Mr. President.
Anyway, had to put that in there for that. And one I forgot last month was on 10/9, the BISD social media held at Lake Jackson Intermediate, talking about the social media seminar and what's going on. Unfortunately, it wasn't very well attended, but there's a lot of info in there, so maybe, I don't think they're going to give up on it. I think it wasn't as well as attended as you would have liked, but hopefully they'll maybe give another shot at it. So that's it for me. Hope Veterans Day programs, appreciate the ones I was able to attend to. I didn't see the ISD right up until the day, so I missed the Brad's forum. So, but I went to Boardle and also went to Navy. It was good, outstanding.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Friday night, Bradsport football playoff game.
Anchor down.
Anchor down.
Anchor down.
BISD stuff?
Get a ticket for you.
What's that?
$10 for a ticket I got for you.
Perfect. Take two.
Not a committee report, but a group of us went to our second CTE school to take a look. Ms. Jenny coordinated with the school that we went to, Pearland, and then last month with Pasadena, and good groups at both. A little more, I think, at the first go around, almost 35, something like that. Around 20 for this go around. For short.
Yes.
David's working there.